And it's brutal out there. FTX wasn't building anything, right? In terms of it wasn't a protocol itself. I mean, FTT nonsense aside, but it wasn't building a base layer of the new monetary system like Bitcoin. It wasn't building a user interface for all of DeFi like Ethereum or others. So from that perspective, it was a bank, so essentially an exchange or a brokerage firm or a bank that was a CeFi solution, right? The transition from TradFi to DeFi that unfortunately was run by really bad guys and gals and committed major fraud. We're likely to uncover the links to just how deep the fraud goes over time. But from, what I mean by it's a lot and a little is, look, the industry is very interconnected, particularly at the leverage level. And so the unwinding of the leverage and people who depended on FTX or Alameda being truthful about the assets they owned or the liabilities they had, turns out they couldn't rely on that. I even dubbed the blockchain era the truth net. We want to replace trust with truth. And the banks have had an 800-year run. I like to say it's over, but I think it's going to extend a little bit because I think what this event does is it slows down that transition, right? And for years people say, well, the governments could just ban crypto or ban Bitcoin. Nope, you can't ban something that's decentralized or
censorship resistant.
Disruptive. Distributed is the word I'm searching for. So you can't ban it because it's like squeezing the air in a balloon. The air just goes someplace else. But what you can do is you can make the on-ramps and off-ramps really hard to navigate. Like I'm a big, Top Gun guy, Top Gun Maverick, great movie. You can literally send the Tomahawk missiles to blow up the airfield, right? But Maverick found a way to take off on that little short, taxiway. So we will still take off. It's just that the banks definitely bombed the runway. And then why I say not at all is at the end of the day, well, $10 billion is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $10 billion to steal or blow through bad trading is a lot of money. And that's just the protocols themselves. You throw on another 300-400 billion on top of that for the infrastructure companies that support it. 10 billion isn't really that much. But I think the Mt. Gox event, to me, was a bigger deal in the sense that there weren't a lot of options back then. I mean, there was Mt. Gox and a couple, little tiny exchanges, kind of like the early days of ISPs before AOL. There's wasn't a lot of options. And so that was a near-death event. But we survived, and we built, and we thrived. And there are 500 exchanges. Yes, this was arguably the second largest, never really was because it was fake. But it's, there are lots of other exchanges out there. And one last thing, and I'll stop with this long rambling answer to a simple question. I do worry that we still have this, I think, unnecessary and I think detrimental tribalism and snarkiness back and forth about, I told you CeFi was all a fraud and a Ponzi. You need to burn it all down. Now, guys, no, the industry need platforms on which we can use these assets. We can all just go home. We got that. That's called gold. And it's been working for 5,000 years. And it doesn't have the problem of the hard drive getting corrupted. It doesn't have the problem of the code getting hacked. It just exists. And so for 5,000 years, it's been a better form of pure store of value. I believe Bitcoin's better, and I believe things beyond Bitcoin are the future. But the tribalism and everybody needs to kill all of this, rehypothecation mechanism and fractional reserve banking is a fraud. It's just nonsense. I ask people, name a country that you would live in that doesn't have a good fractional reserve banking system. I'll wait, right? I mean, think of one. Go to DRC maybe. Want to go to Somalia maybe. I mean, I don't know. Pick one.
I got nothing.
Oh, I know you do. I'm just, and you're not the responsible. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at the ether or the air, not the ether. I'm not yelling at ether. Actually, I'm yelling at the air. Anyway, yes, I am, and I'm bullish because this is inevitable technology. It's as inevitable as the internet. And look, I lived through, old. I lived through the 2000, 2001, 2002 tech wreck. And everybody was like, see, this is it. I told you this is a big fraud and Ponzi's, and this is the end of this, and the technology is useless, and it'll never be more important than a fax machine. And look, pets.com and Webvan and all these terrible companies, Digital Island, terrible companies. Yeah, there were some bad companies. It wasn't even that they were bad companies. They were just poorly run. They needed more tech. Pets.com is Chewy.com, right? It's the same business. It just took 20 years to get the UI, UX right, to get the GPS tracking right, to get the e-commerce platforms right. But it's a better way to get your dog food. It just is. Or cat food, whichever one you prefer. I got one of each begging to get in here, so I had to close the door. But that siren call of the internet's a fad, the internet's going away. We're using the internet right now. And we're using the thing that the telephone companies tried to kill, just like government's trying to pass regulation to kill off crypto. Why? Because the telephone companies didn't want competition. They like charging $3 a minute for long distance. And the banks don't want competition from DeFi and crypto. So what are they doing? They're paying regulators to thump. And, I think we might have talked about this last time, right? The Gandhi quote, first, which he didn't say, and I wish I could remember who actually said it, but first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. So yeah, they ignored us. 2009 to 15, yeah, nerds and geeks playing through magic internet money, whatever. Then they laugh at you, 16 to 21. God, these guys are so stupid. What are you wasting all your time for? Go get a real job. Then they fight you. 2022 to 2027, fight. And this fight is just getting warmed up. Like, they're gonna punish crypto because of FTX, right? When all is said and done, there's gonna be some punishing legislation that comes down to try to slow the growth, but it won't kill it, because the good news, if you're in the space, you've already won. I mean, it's not that we're going to win, we've already won. And so why am I wildly bullish? I'm wildly bullish because, right, 70-plus-year-old technology to transfer money. I have to make a wire transfer today. Actually, I had to do two, and you'll love this. So I could also transfer USDC, but the problem is the banks won't let me transfer more than 25K per day out of my own bank. It's my money. And I can't take more than 25K out to put into USDC. So it takes me a certain number of days to get to the 100K I need to make this investment. And so I got enough to send one by USDC, instantaneous. Send it to the ETH address, paid for my investment in this company, MetaGood, runs on-chain monkeys, all excited about that. But I need to send some money to another DeFi investment I'm doing. It's not DeFi, it's more the base layer for what's eventually going to be DeFi. But I just don't have enough USDC, so I'm just going to do a wire. And it's going to cost me $25, and it's not going to go until, a couple days, and then they'll be closed on Thursday, and it probably won't even get there till Friday, and it just pisses me off. I probably lean more with the latter, with a big capital B, capital U, capital T, comma. There are two other big bad things that if they were to happen, it's not that the bear market, it's not that crypto winter extends. I do think we're in crypto spring, But the bear market could continue because we had, I'll call it, Hurricane Sam or Nor'easter Sam. Every March, not every March, about every 10 years in March, we get a nor'easter off the coast of North Carolina where I live, and it dumps, a foot of snow in March, and nobody knows how to deal with that. It's spring. 2 weeks earlier, I was barbecuing, and then I get, a foot of snow. And that's kind of what FTX is. It was a big old storm. Sam, bad guy. Caroline, bad person. Bad people. Bad people do bad things. Hate the players, not the game. It's not the game that's the problem. It's the players. But now the problem is, I'll call it earthquake. I'm going to switch mixed metaphors here. If GBTC has to liquidate, that will be very bad in the short run. I mean, like really bad. If he's forced to actually liquidate the trust to close the discount, that could be ugly, because that puts 600,000 plus Bitcoin on the market, and that'll. I don't even want to say how low we go then, and everything else would follow. Big high school wrestler, not big. I was a high school wrestler, not a big wrestler, but my coach had this great line: where the head goes, the body follows. So you want someone to move to the right, push their head to the right. The other one I loved, he used to say is, we'd be, I can't breathe, coach, I can't breathe. Like, if you can talk, you can breathe. So when you stop talking, then I'll break it up. But the second one is Tether. I'm not a Tether fudster. I don't really believe there's no there. Do I believe they have 100 cents on the dollar? Probably not. I probably don't, actually. So, is that the fact that they're in the Bahamas along with Sam makes me nervous, honestly. The fact that they met the day after it all came out makes me nervous. They tracked the guy's tail number to the Bahamas where he met with Sam. So that bugs me. So if that were to, seize, that would be ugly. So those are the two earthquakes that I'm worried about. I mean, I believe it. I mean, MetaGood is cool because I like it because they're trying to monetize good karma. Right? It's a community that tries to recognize when people do good in the world and give them mana that they can spend in the ecosystem. I think it's a cool little project. I like good karma. I like paying it forward. I like doing good acts. And so far, it's been interesting. Is that going to be a monster company? No. Is it going to save the future of finance? No. Is it a really interesting idea that you can own a gateway to a community and be part of a community to do something good in the world? Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. In terms of am I buying Bitcoin here? The answer is no. Talking a lot about it. In fact, I get a text just about every day from the other guys on my team saying, now. Like, look, I'm not a day trader. I'm a DCA person. I like to, dollar cost average. And I do believe that everyone in this space should pick a percentage that you want to own, 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, whatever the number is, whatever you're comfortable with. And you shouldn't buy it all at once. You should buy it over time. Buy it today, buy it tomorrow, buy it next week, buy it next month, but don't buy it all at once, right? Buy it over time. And so, the way our funds work. So, our fund one that was raised in 2018, we had a plan to buy 20% of the fund in Bitcoin and other digital assets. We set that out over a period. I think we started in kind of March of 19 and finished in July of 19. We did a little bit every week and got that in there. So our average cost back then was like $5,000, $4,800, something like that. Fund two, we raised in 2020, same thing, 20%. Buy it over time. I think our average entry price there was like 8. And fund three, we just finished, and we said, all right, we're going to go to, in this case, we have a 20% target, but our fund was a little smaller than we thought, so we might not get all the way to 20%. But make a long story short is we started to buy some and higher, obviously. And, we bought a little more lower, and we'll probably buy a little more sometime in the next couple of weeks. So that's the way those funds work. Even though it's interesting, Bitcoin is not a security, been deemed not a security by the SEC, because I manage a Bitcoin futures ETF called CRYP, which again is either in Bitcoin or in cash. And because I manage that, they made me change my code of ethics so that Bitcoin is now a security. So I'm restricted on my on my personal trading, which I think is weird, but they're the SEC, so they can do what they want. So, I say thank you.